music going to be as they come to the checkered flag? What a race this has been.
Beausejour, Manitoba is a small prairie town smack dab in the middle of the North American continent. The winters might be long and cold, but it's during the winter season that Beausejour truly comes alive. To help pass the winter months, snowmobile racing has long been a hobby of the people that live there. Many families are grain farmers, working long days through the spring, summer, and fall to produce a crop, but often with an abundance of time on their hands over the winter months. Enter ice oval racing. Ice oval racing involves racing souped-up snowmobiles at breakneck speeds around a track of pure ice. It's fast, intense, with a healthy dose of adrenaline. There's no better way to pass a prairie winter. At least, that's the opinion of 20-year-old Quinn Wojcik.
When I'm going around the track, it's definitely a different feeling when you're out there. All you could hear is the sled. If somebody's close to you, you could hear them too, so it kind of gets your adrenaline pumping a little bit.
Quinn is an ice oval racer who travels around Canada and the US, competing as part of a 3-person team. His goal is to start racing professionally. It's a dream he and his dad, Dave, pump time, money, and dedication into. They're hopeful their goal is finally almost within grasp. But first, Quinn takes us back to where it all started.
I lived like 1.5 miles away from the racetrack in Beausejour, so I always used to go there when I was younger and kind of liked watching the sleds go around, and I always wanted to do that. I was pretty young when I first went to the races. I was probably like 7 or 8. Got my own sled. I was pretty scared because I didn't know what to expect, like being with other people on the track.
Racing's always been a part of their life. Every time a race was on in Beausejour, which is 1/2 mile from our house, we'd take them in the December race and March races to watch them. Watching him race, as a kid he always wanted to race, we could never afford it. We'd go to the track, and every time a champ racer would win, Quinn would go on the track and ask for PJ's goggles, so he has 2 sets of his goggles at home signed. When I could afford it, I bought him a sled, and we stayed in Canada for the first season. After that, as much as we could, we'd go to the States, meet different people, and that's what we would do. Go as many places we could to race, and the more seat time he had, the better you get.
The mechanical side of racing is also something that's intrigued Quinn since an early age.
Quinn's been working with his hands on engines since he was probably 10 years old. It didn't matter what I was working on in the garage, whether it was for racing or not. He was always interested in motors. And I taught them from the get-go on how to fix things yourself and not take it to a garage. That's how it worked out to be. His first job at Sabetsky's, he was so shy, we had to take him there as a father and my wife, and Quinn wouldn't even talk, and I kind of said, he's looking for a job. And he started working at Sabetsky's pushing a broom before he worked his way into the mechanics course to become a technician. I think he was 13. He was young. He started pushing a broom.
Quinn's clearly come a long way. From being a kid with a dream and a goal, pushing a broom around a power sports dealership.
We started traveling. The first year we went to only 2 places in the States, and now we do like the whole circuit. So it's like basically, I don't know how many, maybe 10 races a year.
We've always had snowmobiles in the yard. They'd always come snowmobiling with us, and one day they want to take the snowmobile for a ride, and I says, no, not unless you can start it by yourself. But they got smart. Quinn and my daughter Jasmine both went out there and pulled the rope and got it running, and my wife's yelling, David, they got the sled running. I told them if they could get it running, they could drive. We have 3 acres. They drove around the yard all the time, and he'd eventually get into the field. They've always been on snowmobiles.
The time commitment needed to take ice oval racing seriously isn't a laughing matter.
Wintertime is pretty busy because we're gone just about every weekend. We're gone, sometimes you leave Wednesday for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday race, and then you come back Monday, so you're gone for almost a week at a time. And then you're gone the next weekend, so you're home for 4 days. You got lots of time off work, so it's good to have good bosses. Summertime, it doesn't take up too much of my time until it gets closer to fall time. Then the work on the sleds starts and a little more try to get in shape after the summer eating and all that.
While Quinn and Dave raced for many years on their own as a father-son team, an opportunity to join Wayne Tremblay's Team TAC, alongside Jared Satchvey and Sam Glure, opened up new possibilities for Quinn during the last racing season. Here's how Dave tells it.
We started out racing. Jared's from Beausejour, Wayne was from Winnipeg, so we'd pick up Jared and we'd meet them at the border. Jared would jump in with Wayne, we'd head to the States to different races, and we always raced. Wayne would always help us. Whenever we had a problem with the snowmobile, Wayne would always give us a clutch or anything to help us to get better. And then when Sam got hurt, one day I was working on the 500 and Quinn came in the garage. He goes, Dad, he says, Wayne wants me to run the Pro Light. I says, go for it, that's what you want to do. He's, yeah, but you spent all this money on the sled. I says, we're not selling the 500. You're just going on the Pro Light. It didn't bother me. I'm happy to be on with Team TAC now.
Wayne Tremblay is the owner of Team TAC. He's retired now, but owned a power sports dealership for many years. Running Team TAC is both a hobby and a passion for him.
I like building sleds, wrenching, you know, like that's it was always been my livelihood, but when you make a living being a power sports owner, businessman, off hours is what you do on your own, and what you do for racing is totally different. That's my release, really. That's my hobby. When I was younger, I was very competitive. I was always in power sports. I was been involved then. I've been in power sports since I was 17. I had the privilege of working and helping teams in the 70s and 80s. And helping with engine building and stuff like that. And I did a little bit of my own stuff. I'm not built to be raced. I'm better being a crew chief, setting up and building sleds. I'm better at that, you know, engine work, clutching work. Not a driver, so being a team owner and doing your own stuff is just as good as racing. Like actually driving the sled, because you can see the fruits of your hard work and everything, and working with great lads again.
Quinn is one of 3 drivers on Wayne's team.
So me as a driver on the team, I go out and drive the sled, and then once I get off the track, I either tell my dad or Wayne what the sled's doing or what they see. Then they kind of discuss amongst themselves what they should do to the sled. And then either Wayne or my dad will do the work while the other driver goes out on the track. And then if they're busy in the trailer, I'll go help the other driver. It kind of works like that.
Wayne appreciates not only Quinn's abilities as a racer, but also the calm demeanor he lends to the team.
He's very quiet. If I was another team and I see Quinn, doesn't matter what he drives. If I see Quinn on the line, I'd be, oh crap, here, I got to race against Quinn. Doesn't matter what he drives. It's like, he understands the track. I think one of Quinn's biggest tribute is that, nothing against Dave's sled or his team, he was always in the mid-pack. It's always nice to be top 3 or in front because it's a lot safer and easier to drive, but Quinn pretty well always, doesn't matter what, he always had to be in the mid-pack.
He's confident that Quinn knows how to handle himself when things get heated on the track.
Quinn is very good in traffic. You know, you go in 3 deep, 4 deep, and there's skis are touching, and you know, their elbows and stuff and hoods are touching. Quinn's in there, he's really good at that. He's very safe. That's what puts Quinn ahead of a lot of other people. He likes being up front. He gets up front, he'll hold his line, and good luck trying to pass him. Once he gets up front, the rest of the guys are, well, okay, we'll just follow Quinn.
It's all good to talk about, but how do things play out in the moment? And how do Quinn and his team deal when things get heated on race day? Quinn Wojcik is an ice oval racer from Beausejour, Manitoba, with a big dream. He wants to race at the professional level. Our team caught up with Quinn shortly after the Canadian Power Toboggan Championships in his hometown. We asked him to recap how the race went for him.
March, we were racing the pro lights. Saturday was kind of rough. It was really wet out. Like, the track was really soft, there was lots of water. So first race, first lap, we sucked in water. Part of the sled got wet. Once we sucked in water, I knew right away because I was on the throttle when it happens, and then the sled just powered right down and everybody started passing me. I was like, what the heck? So I ended up pulling off the track, and then the sled was still running. So I drove it back in, changed a couple parts, but not the one that we needed to. Went back out and it was doing the same thing, so we changed a couple more parts, and then it ended up fixing it for the final, which was good. And then the ice got harder for the final, so we were able to run good. But I made it into the final. So in the final, I was able to get third in the final. I had to make a pass from fourth to third and took out a cone on the inside to make that pass and ended up third. And then Sunday was a lot better. Sunday, we came in second, I think, in all the heat races. And then the final, I was running third, and then I made a pass for second on the third last lap or second last lap, and ended up coming home second.
Second place might not seem that bad, but it was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it sucks because we were testing really good that day, and even the day before that we were testing really good, so as soon as that happened, it was on the first lap. It was a big bummer. Yeah, it just kind of brings your spirits down a little bit. You try to, because you're doing really good in testing, and then all of a sudden the race comes and the sled dies down, especially in your home track, when you've been doing good everywhere else. It kind of brings it down, but coming in third in the final helped out and made it feel a lot better once we got everything figured out.
He's very competitive. He'll hold back and wait and make sure that no one in front of him is going to cut him off. And yeah, everyone wants to win. He wants to be out front. And yeah, that's about it.
Ice oval racing is very much an individual sport. It's you and it's the machine. But it's also a sport that depends on being able to read and understand one's fellow racers.
I guess my racing style is more of I'm a little more aggressive, but I still kind of keep my distance to a certain point. But if I really trust the guy, I'll be like a couple inches away from them in the corner because I know what they're going to do.
The level of trust between individual racers is also an important part of racing.
You really have to respect them, especially when you're going 100 miles an hour. You have to know that they're not going to cut down in front of you or anything like that. They're all pretty good, the guys I race with. They can hear you and they give you room and everything.
And what's another important part of the equation that Quinn says contributes to a winning racer?
Underrated skills, I guess, would be staying calm, because then if you get worked up right away, you'll make mistakes and then it'll get worse and kind of make you slower.
With the goal of bringing home a trophy in mind, Wayne has plenty of advice for his team of racers, including Quinn.
I asked them to drive a certain way. I don't want to give up too many secrets. To go fast on an oval track, there are certain things that you have to do to go fast. I would say all three drivers were doing the same thing at the first start, and I wouldn't just force it on them that they had to do this one thing, but I asked them to get used to doing one thing on the track. it worked out really well for us. You know, it's all to do with momentum and not trying to kill that momentum. Entering and exiting corners and stuff like that, it's important to not to lose that momentum and drag off that speed, so the boys would listen to me. That's important. They honestly would sit there and listen to me.
Up next, we go beyond just the physical side of racing and look at the emotional side, the mental side, and what it means to compete in an adrenaline sport that involves a certain amount of risk. Quinn Wojcik loves to race, but he'll be the first to tell you there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. A good racer has to know how to handle themselves, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally.
Riding the race sled, I guess it's kind of like the Pro Light's more like an airplane, but without a seat and you're not strapped in or anything. So you're just sitting out in the open, and if you don't hang on hard enough, you'll fall off kind of thing. So it's kind of tough that way. Getting back on the sled after that first crash took you a while to get used to the sled again, so you're kind of scared of it at first, and then you just get used to it again. I just kind of told myself, it's just a sled, you could kind of handle it and go fast. It doesn't make me too nervous, because I'm still young, so I could recover quick. A couple of tracks you go to, they're a little bit narrower, so you're tighter with the sleds. So when you're racing side by side against somebody, it gets a little more nerve-wracking, because you're right there next to each other and you don't know what's going to happen.
One thing that can rattle Quinn from time to time is getting ready at the starting line.
So you wait in corner 4, and they call you down to the line. So you line the sled up, then you set your picks, and then you wait for the flag man. Every flag man is different, so some of them are hard to read, some of them are easy to read. Some guys, they'll point across and then put the flag down and then you go. Or they'll just put the flag down and go, and so it takes a bit to read the flag man as well. When you're waiting in the staging area, it's nerve-wracking because it feels like everything's just taking forever, like you just want to get out there and hurry up and race kind of thing. So yeah, and then once you get to the starting line, then everything starts moving faster, and then you hit the throttle and it slows down more kind of thing.
There's someone else who gets nervous come race time.
Whenever my mom watches me, if she does watch, she watches me if I'm in the back because she knows I'm not going to get hurt there, but if I'm in the front, she probably won't watch. And then she asks to see the video later to see how I did. It makes her nervous, but she still shows up and watches.
Quinn's family knows he's a talented racer, not prone to taking risks. And he might be a bit biased. But here's what Dave has to say about his son's weaknesses as a racer.
I don't think Quinn has any weaknesses. If something's wrong with the sled, I can tell because he'll come into the trailer and he's quiet. But you have to tell me what's going on with the sled for me to fix it. That's about the only weakness he has, is if he's quiet, there's something wrong with the sled, but you have to tell me what's wrong with it.
When it comes down to it, it's not about the individual racers. It's about the team. Yes, even when things get heated.
It doesn't matter what's going on in the trailer. When things break, things have to get fixed. There's a little commotion sometimes in the trailer because you're running 2 different sleds, a 500 and a Pro Lighter, 2 different snowmobiles, different class, everything. And we work as a team. If you're not putting in gas and lube, you're making sure you have the right carbides picked out, make sure the generator has fuel. We work as a team, win or lose.
Weaknesses and strengths. It's about much more than the performance of one individual. It's about the strength of the team. And Wayne has big goals going forward for Quinn and the team.
We're quite successful. We are probably in Canada, United States, I think both sleds are in top 3. Okay, that's, I think that's great. I don't think we can win every race. We try to, but realistically, you can't win every race. So your goal at the beginning of the year is to be top 5. If you can be in the top 5 in this sport, it's great. But deep down, I want to be top 3. Of course, we want to win, but I'm very happy with top 3. You know, if you ask me at the beginning of the race who's going to win that race, you can't do that. There's only maybe a few drivers that are going to be in the front all the time. You know, teams in whole, like especially the F500 class, man, tough. It's so competitive.
With the unprecedented global changes due to COVID-19 a harsh reality, no one's 100% sure about what the next racing season will bring. Quinn only has eyes for the future, though.
It's one of the best pieces of advice I got is to just drive with your head, think with your heart, and just don't get into any accidents and just keep going and stay safe.
He can go right to the champ. If he has the opportunity, he will go to champ. That's how good of a driver he is.